everybody, welcome to Bluntly Told. I am Vince Chandler.
I am Janessa Lee.
We are the Fit Cannabis Couple, and this is the very first episode of Bluntly Told. It's exciting.
Thank you guys for being here.
Oh, this is so
much
cool.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm happy to finally be here.
Yeah, we've been planning this for a little while, so it's exciting to be here in this day. I'm making it happen.
Without a doubt, making it happen. Here we go.
Fun.
A couple of things to hit everybody before we get started. Make sure you're following Bluntly Told everywhere. It's facebook.com/bluntlytold. It's youtube.com/bluntlytold. It's instagram.com/bluntlytold. We're not on Twitter. We're not on TikTok, but we are there under a couple of iterations. That's Fit Cannabis Couple. What are those ones?
Fit Cannabis Girl, or just Fit
Yeah, drop them all. Yeah.
Okay, Fit Cannabis. Well, I mean, TikTok is Fit Cannabis, or Fit Cannabis. What did we do? We changed TikTok.
Oh yeah,
recently.
TikTok has such cannabis rules that we are Fit Canna Couple.
Canna Couple.
CANNA.
Yeah.
Fit Canna Boy.
Oh yeah,
and
Fit Canna Girl. Yeah.
Over on TikTok.
Can't do the whole cannabis word there or 420, or otherwise they block your stuff. They are anti-cannabis over there. But Fit Cannabis Couple, Fit Cannabis Girl on Instagram still, Fit Canna Girl also on Facebook, and That's about it.
Follow all of them, everybody. And since you're listening to the very first episode of Bluntly Told here, you can also do us another favor. This one's pretty easy. It's pretty important. Review the show, subscribe to the show, and share the show. All three of those things help us build right out the gate.
Spotify.
It's super important
I think
to
we
do.
forgot to mention Spotify was the only one on the last thing. Yeah. Spotify, you guys, Bluntly Told is obviously on there. This is a podcast. We are recording it and putting it on YouTube and trying to do this live show as well. So thank you guys for being here for this. But this is also going to be put up on YouTube and Spotify. So please check us out there as well. Like, subscribe, and review us there, please, too.
Yeah, it is absolutely super cool to see how many people are tuning in already on the live. So
Very
welcome to everybody on the Facebook Live. Let's dial into the show a little bit and introduce ourselves a little
Enough
bit.
of the promotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know.
Yeah, who are you listening to anyways?
Yeah, well, since it is our first episode, we were going to do a little bios of ourselves real quick, explain a little bit of who we are and why we're here, why we're talking about the things we're talking about. Vince, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start it off. My name is Vince Chandler. I call myself a recovering journalist. I spent 10 years in professional legacy journalism, and it finally culminated at the Denver Post, where I helped found The Cannabist, which was the world's first marijuana newspaper. We covered cannabis from the Society of Professional Journalists, like ethics standards, and it was right as cannabis became an above ground $1 billion legal industry back in 2014. So you
were on the cutting edge of it, we're in the beginning.
Yeah, I went from consumer to super fan super fast. It was wild.
Immersed in all of the cannabis businesses too, and meeting everybody through the cannabis, which is actually how Vince and I met. He interviewed me for the cannabis show, and we talked about Fit Cannabis Girl, and kind of who I am is I opened the first cannabis-friendly gym. I did have a lot of success with cannabis, fitness, and nutrition. I lost over 100 pounds. I worked myself out of a wheelchair and got off over 20 pharmaceuticals I was taking daily. And I kind of took what I learned and my experiences from that, and I wanted to share that with as many people as I could. And when I came to Colorado, it wasn't even an idea when I moved to Colorado. It kind of just came about. I was thinking of in the beginning where I was just going to kind of be a health coach and a personal trainer, but I came into a position where I ended up transforming the lower part of my house into a gym, and it was Break the Stigma Fitness, and we did cannabis-friendly fitness there, and it was an experience where we worked out for half of it and consumed cannabis. We got sponsors and products, and it was just a really great thing for the community to kind of come together, talk to each other. A lot of people with disabilities and illnesses who use cannabis as a tool for their fitness regimen could really come together and enjoy each other in that space and learn how other people were using the medicine too, and it was fabulous. So that's how I kind of came about in the cannabis industry back then, and how Vince learned about me and interviewed me on The Cannabist. And now here we are here doing Bluntly Told. Break the Stigma Fitness ended up getting shut down. We'll go into that on another time. But we're pivoting. I've been trying to kind of pivot and from still being able to share my message, and that's kind of a big reason why Bluntly Told is is in creation, I guess, now. It just really excited to be able to be here and share my message and be here with Vince and doing it with him. And he's got incredible experience in this and knowledge. So I'm really excited for you guys to be here and hopefully learn a few things and let us know what, we could also teach you guys and what you guys want from us too. Definitely in the comments below and yeah.
Yeah, hit those comments, hit those DMs.
Yeah,
definitely like so you know like what Bluntly Told is. As we are a show about truth and wellness, we are expanding on that, breaking the stigma and discussing cannabis and athleticism and overall wellness through whole plant medicine.
It's not just EDS and like my story, right? This is definitely, I promise, there's a lot more to it, but my experience definitely gives me the position to be able to talk on the things I feel like that we talk about. So that is a small part of it, but definitely a lot of other wellness pieces and parts to this.
And I think that Janessa is always very careful to say not just EDS, largely because she doesn't want to be identified by her disease, which is 100% understandable. But
I do have a bit of a fear with that for sure. Yeah, definitely labels with that.
Yeah,
not wrong.
And anybody with half some sense can understand why. But I do want to highlight why I think I'm very excited to be welcomed by the Zebra, the EDS community as wholeheartedly as I have been over the last month and a half as we've been doing like the build up to the show and a lot of the conversations around using plant medicine to overcome disabilities in athleticism and wellness, mostly because that doesn't really exist. As far as I can find, is everything seems to be leaned towards very ableist, able-bodied, very like sports-centric. You can do it, just fucking get over it.
There's not a big community for the disabled or people disadvantaged. Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that I see Bluntly Told being is we're going to be sharing a lot of resources, and it's going to be a place where you can definitely get a lot of the information that you need, and it's going to be accessible readily for everybody. Especially with COVID, long haul COVID, it's been awakening a lot of people with some pretty serious diseases over the last year, and the chronically ill numbers in this country are about to expand in a way that we've never seen. And so like this information, everybody needs access to.
Yeah, you can apply it to many, not just EDS, many chronic illnesses, and just like honestly feeling crummy. I mean, everyone at some point doesn't feel 100%, and so I think that it can be applied for any and all circumstances, and everybody I feel like loves somebody too who has chronic illness or chronic disability and disease and stuff. So it's a good thing to learn for your loved ones as well. So and that's a big appreciation to you also for being here and learning so much about my disability and illness, and being gung-ho about also bringing that message to others too, not having it even being a part of your identity and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Be that person for your person in your life, y'all. If you got a person in your life who's got chronic disability, learn about it and be their source of comfort, because we deal with so much pain and stress and bullshit in our lives, honestly, you guys. And it's just having just that source of a solid person in your life that really is on your side with it. It can make and break somebody, really with it. So be that person, y'all.
It is. It's also. I mean, selfishly, it's super rewarding to be that person too. I have to say, it's kind of like being an incredibly good dad these days. Being an incredibly good partner is also something that you can just get accolades for, and it's it's trashy to mention it out loud, but literally every doctor that or a medical professional that I've talked to with Janessa has always made a point of that the two of us are a team, and that they wish that more people were presenting with this and like this with their families or loved ones or partners or even friends. You definitely know somebody who's chronically ill. Fucking adjust how you approach them.
Yeah, definitely just learn about it and try to be empathetic and understanding. That's feel like a big part of it'd make a big difference.
Yes, it absolutely will. So we're going to be talking a lot about that on this show. And one of the ways that we're going to be doing it is we're going to be talking about current events and what's going on in the world, and then applying them to our experiences and to where we're at. Yes. And so this week we're looking at a few things going on. One is worldwide, and one is a little bit more local to where we live, Colorado. Again, this is not going to be a Colorado show, but Colorado did, first in the country to establish an adult use cannabis program, and they are probably the most actively working to destroy their medical program right now.
Yo,
so there's a lot to talk about in the
let
Centennial
me tell
State.
you. Oofta. We'll get into that.
Yeah, we will definitely get into that. But I'm gonna go first
Yeah.
with the news this week because the Olympics are going on. I grew up an ice hockey player. I'm covered in ice hockey tattoos. I coached NCAA Division I ice hockey at Penn State, and I live for the Winter Olympics. It's like, yes, it's here. But also as a cannabis activist, it always kind of brings me back to how I really got involved in the idea of cannabis and athletics in the first place. And it was Ross Riaboli, Rebjgoli. It was, that Canadian snowboarder back in '98. I was only like 10, 11 years old, but he had the first ever gold medal awarded by the Olympics for snowboarding taken away from him. And I remember because I was a little skater kid who loved snowboarding. I mean, it was Pittsburgh snowboarding, so it was ice sliding. But like, it was in the Olympics. I was watching it the same way that I watched the skateboarding events in the Summer Olympics this past summer. Like, I was fucking there for it. And the guy who won had his shit taken away because of cannabis.
Yeah.
They called it a performance-enhancing drug, and it became like the absolute butt of the joke for every late-night comedian. Fast forward 25 years, we're still there with
So
Sha'Carri
funny.
Richardson.
Yeah, same sort of jokes happened exactly immediately right after that. Everyone was like, 1 second you guys are villainizing this, the next second you guys are calling it an enhancement drug. And I mean, like, I get that because that's what I preach. It's an enhancement for sure. But to call it, to take somebody out of the Olympics for that is bullshit. I mean, how you want to what degree an enhancement? It's not steroids and stuff, but
I mean, it's definitely
increasing your wellness.
It helps wellness. It definitely
Right, it
helps
helps
in
your wellness,
training,
but just like
100%.
vitamins, right. It's just like a
What are we
vitamin.
going to take out like next? Like no post workout, absolutely.
Right,
no
it's not a
protein shake.
comparison.
Like,
It's a part of your
like,
wellness routine, but it shouldn't be categorized as
it's not going to give you an immediate boost like a horse steroid will.
steroid, right,
We're
exactly.
We're not
Yeah.
Lance Armstrong doping our removing our blood from our
Right.
body and replacing it with the younger
Right.
blood of a 20.
But the national view of that, like how they're just stepping behind that. So, and then right before that, we're gonna say like it's just a horrible substance and people, we can't use it. Or, it's just God. It's whatever narrative that pushes their bullshit is what they're gonna absolutely say that supports their opinion and what they want to accomplish. So it's frustrating. It's bullshit. Yeah.
It is. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's been constant. I mean, when Sha'Carri was getting suspended, it was the conversation. I was like citing Ross as much as I possibly could. I was like, we've been here, and I'm happy to say that the conversation now has definitely gotten more mature, more intelligent. I mean, I took to Twitter so fast because I was so angry that even stoners were like, "Come on, bro, what are you talking about? Performance enhancing? When I smoke a joint, I just want to eat Doritos." And I'm like, all we're doing is perpetuating the stigma of the lazy stoner, and that doesn't help either.
Right.
At all.
Yeah. Let's not do that. Let's continue to live life and be doing things with
I'm glad you started talking to me because I switched cameras because Frankie was on Janessa's lap. For everybody who's listening to the show.
I got distracted too.
Yeah, this is
Sorry.
a reminder that you need to watch the live stream on Facebook, coming soon to our YouTube channel as well. Definitely watch the video version, watch the video clips on our Instagram.
All of the cats,
the audio
y'all.
version, stay subscribed to, review it, share it, do all of those things. But every once in a while, tune in because we got these cats in our studio.
Yeah.
And they are pretty fantastic too.
They're
and
a lot of fun,
They're
y'all.
going to be hanging out.
They're sweeties. This is Frank's. That's Sam's. For any of you guys who don't know him, they're always around here. Frank's is a Siamese. He loves to give all the hugs.
Our other is Khloe Kardashian. You can follow her on Instagram at
She does
quarterpipe
have
cat.
an
Yeah,
Instagram,
she's an outside rad cat. These two are our inside
She
studio
skateboards,
cats.
y'all.
Yes.
It's a pretty cool cat. Pretty cool cat.
So the Winter Olympics are going on. I just want to remind everybody that Bluntly Told is going to be a place where you can come in for intelligent conversations with athletes about cannabis use, because we are 25 years between 98 and 2021 between Ross and Sha'Carri, and this conversation has definitely evolved, but we have obviously not gotten where we need to be with it yet. So keep tuning into the show. It's keep tuning in, and it's what we're going to be talking about. Hit me on my Insta DMs while you're watching snowboarding, while you're especially Mega Pipe. Any of the snowboarding events, I'll talk to you about it. Definitely hit me up. But I'm here for the Winter Olympics. I'm hyped for it. That is the good news story of the week this week.
Hey,
the bad news is not that the Winter Olympics are coming to Denver. They keep trying, and we keep fighting that
someday.
shit back.
That would be cool.
Denver's, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But we're breaking other things up here in Colorado.
Man.
I'm going to let the patient talk about this one, though.
Yeah, so I'm a medical patient here in Colorado. I also got into cannabis actually as an advocate and just sharing my story and trying to change laws in Minnesota, where I am from. But when I moved out to Colorado, I did get involved into the Colorado patient advocacy groups, and it's come to my attention that they have introduced a new bill that takes away a lot of patients' rights. And unfortunately, now physicians are required to give dosage amounts and have a second doctor also give the recommendation. So it's not just one cannabis kind of doctor that does the prescribing, which is what we had before, but you have to have two doctors vouch for your illness and also give dosage amounts. So this is just as costly to patients and also people with disabilities. Just getting out for one appointment is often hassle and pain enough. So to require two, also in what other circumstance do they require two doctors to sign off on any sort of prescription? I mean, they don't do that for OxyContin or any sort of opiate or other scheduled drug that they prescribe. So it's to villainize and constantly, make patients, I feel like criminals or make us, it's just in putting more steps and red tape around it and more expense around it. That's bullshit. Another thing that they're requiring is for mental health reviews for patients who are 18 to 20 years old. And, again, like this shouldn't be a part of getting a medical card for cannabis. That shouldn't be a required step for that. Again, what other medication is that a requirement for? That's just silly. And then they also have decreased the amount of concentrates that you can purchase to 8 grams. And, it's just, people's illnesses are all so different, and everybody consumes differently. And, somebody who has cancer and who might be using a vigorous RSO or FECO, fully extracted cannabis oil recipe, and have to get, a large amount in the pounds, to create that high concentrate oil for your disease. And then you're also often making topicals for it and edibles and consuming in all of the ways, and not just smoking. And often these legislators just really forget that everybody's health is individual to them, and often people do really need a lot of medicine. It's just they're so ignorant to, I think, really the medical patient's perspective and how our life is and how we really use this medicine. And so they're just, making erroneous laws and also hiding behind the fact that, for the kids' protection, that's a lot of what was lobbied against getting this bill into effect, was they're protecting the kids. And it's just, it's really unfortunate that this is going on. And so it was actually passed. And I'm a part of a group of people who are also, suing to get this overturned. And so there's some stuff that's going on. If you're a patient in Colorado and you want to be a part of this conversation, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to keep you in the loop about it, because we definitely need all the patients to come together.
Obviously, I have things to say. Most of them are definitely going to be coming out in editorial form, so definitely follow me on social and Janessa on social everywhere so that you can read those as they come out. But I'm not going to waste any more airtime here, because our guest this week, Dr. Jill Schofield from the Center for Multisystem Disease, she is a world-renowned, respected medical professional who shares Janessa's opinion on exactly this. So 100%, here she is, Dr. Jill Schofield. All right. We're always, of course, excited to speak with our guests, but this week in particular, we're floored by who we're about to introduce. Dr. Jill Schofield is the founder and director of the Center for Multisystem Disease in Colorado. She has published a number of original research papers and regularly presents her work to national and international audiences. She's an associate clinical professor at the University of Colorado in their Department of Medicine. Her primary areas of interest are Hughes syndrome and the emerging fields of autoimmune dysautonomia and mast cell activation syndrome. She's developed considerable expertise, as a matter of fact, and an interest in searching for the underlying cause of dysautonomia in adults and children who fail to improve with conservative therapies, and she's going to tell us what that means in just a few minutes. I'm very excited to have her on. How about you, Jay?
So excited. Thank you, Jill, Dr. Jill Schofield, for being here. This is such an honor. I have looked into your work for years and have just really appreciated everything that you put into the zebra community and chronic disease, multisystem disease, because we're definitely a community out there that isn't represented very well. So it's really amazing to have you here. So thank you so much.
Thank you both for having me. I appreciate it.
So we read your bio, but let's make sure everyone really knows you before we learn from you. If we were at a camp and asked to share a fun fact about ourselves, what would yours be?
I have two big vices, which are I'm terribly addicted to Audible, and I love to watch the NFL, and I'm super sad the season's winding down.
Oh man, yeah. Sports.
Yeah.
Sports and books.
3 more games.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, it's getting towards the end of the season, but has it been a good season for your team of choice? Who do you
Well, my team of choice will always be the Denver Broncos.
Hey,
We
represent?
haven't bounced back since our Super Bowl win some time ago, but this was the best year we had in a while, and it was
Feels good.
fun to watch him improve.
Yeah, very cool.
Absolutely. I missed that Super Bowl 50 year. That was a really good year.
Ah.
I'm a Penn State grad,
Yeah.
so I'm happy to know that a Penn State player will definitely play in the Super Bowl this year.
Is that-
at this
is that a
point.
thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
every
okay.
team that has a Penn State player left
Oh,
on
okay.
it. So. Okay,
a
I have
fun
one
fact.
more icebreaker because I enjoy them. I think they're fun. Before we get started, we ask every guest, our cats, they're here. Frankie's going to make an appearance.
Always.
And he insists we ask, dog, cat, alternative pet person.
Dog, I'm a dog person.
Dog
all the
person.
way.
Do you have a dog?
I have 2 Labradoodles,
Oh, fun.
and I love them so much. I bought one recently for my parents, and I bought another one for my son's girlfriend, and he's 20, so he and his girlfriend.
That's adorable. So
So,
a whole
yeah,
family
4
of
doodles in my
doodles.
life.
I love that.
That's awesome. I guess you go with what you like. So very cool.
Yeah, you do. I think that's true.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
have a question that I've been really happy to ask you, especially you. I've been aware of EDS for years. It's been on my radar since I first met Janessa, and she started teaching me about it. And then when we partnered up and we started dating, I particularly doubled down and wanted to learn as much as I could about it, and even more quickly learned that there was absolutely no way I was going to be able to learn everything that I wanted to be able to learn. It's complicated. There's a lot going on with all multi-system diseases for sure. And just so for all of the muggles out there listening now, in the easiest language, how would you break down what Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is and what multi-system diseases are?
First, thank you for being so supportive of your girlfriend, or if you're married now, because not everybody's so lucky to have, and that makes all the difference in the world. So.
You couldn't
but-
be more right. We
Yeah.
actually just again had that conversation when we were going through these questions, and it makes such a world of difference to feel like you're not waking up every day having to prove your symptoms and prove it to your
Yeah.
partner or the people who supposedly love and support you, because it's just such a major significant thing for people who struggle with this disease to like very consistently have to do that with people in their lives, and we're just constantly having to prove ourselves, and it gets exhausting, and like you said, it means the world of a difference to waking up
Yes,
and
to your significant other, your friends, your
Yeah.
family,
Your
and
support system.
sadly, usually your doctors too, which is just.
you're
I
not wrong.
apologize on behalf of my
Well.
profession that is in fact still the case,
Mm.
but that's
Such
why
a
we're
pain point.
here.
Yeah.
We're trying to make it better. And to answer your
Right.
question, Vince, I mean, I am not a geneticist, so that, there's certainly people who have a greater understanding of all these complex connective tissue disorders from a genetic point of view. But there are a number of genetic disorders of connective tissue. Probably the most famous one is actually Marfan syndrome, but Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, maybe it's a tie or a close second, or maybe it's even first. In my world, it's first, because the Ehlers-Danlos, and it's actually the Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, are a group of hereditary connective tissue disorders, meaning that the connective tissue or the structural support of your body isn't quite right. It's not quite as robust as it should be. And as I said, there are a number of different specific Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, but by far and away the one that I deal with almost exclusively is the hypermobile form, characterized by pain and joint dislocation, subluxations. And it becomes very quickly clear when you work with patients with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that there's a number of symptoms they have that you're scratching your head. How does this link up with weak connective tissue? And so this has kind of led to this blossoming field of multisystem disease. And it was very exciting that Dr. Afrin recently formally published the hypothesis that a lot of us have kind of had over the last few years, that mast cell activation syndrome may be at the root of the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, in particular, because despite a lot of money being spent and a lot of people looking very hard for mutations in collagen or collagen-like or collagen regulatory genes, none has ever been found for the majority of people with the hypermobile subtype. And again, this hypothesis Dr. Afrin recently published was that may be because the mutation is in mast cells. And we know that of the greater than 1,000 chemical mediators mast cells release, some of them are damaging to tissues. And I was blown away when I found out that there's one ingredient in meat tenderizer, which is tryptase, probably the most famous mast cell mediator. So that just illustrates the point that some of these mediators mast cells release can damage connective tissue. And that then would explain why pretty much everybody with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or the majority of people, have all these other things that you can't really link to weak connective tissue, such as nausea and vomiting, abdominal pain, hives, anaphylaxis, etc.
Very interesting, your thoughts with Dr. Afrin. Actually, Dr. Afrin was a doctor who diagnosed me with mast cell in Minnesota when he was at the University of Minnesota. So I'm very familiar with Dr. Afrin, and familiar with
He's amazing, and thanks from all of us in the community to Dr. Afrin for his brilliance and generosity of his time in teaching the rest of us over the years.
Yep, getting people talking, which is cool to hear and to see, more and more mainstream
we're going to
news.
learn so much about all of this in the next 5-10 years. It's going to blow everybody's mind, I think.
That's very exciting to hear, because, we're kind of, I don't want to say we're a lost community, but a little bit, and we're, just hoping on new information, I feel like, every day. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting. Very cool.
I mean, 5 years ago, when I first learned about EDS, was on the Cannabis Show, a show I made at the Denver Post, when Janessa came on to talk about it. And immediately in the feed and the comments, people were accusing us of making up diseases and putting out made up and invented diseases on a legacy.
Right.
So 5 years later, now that I'm still seeing a similar kind of pushback, but not in the kind of volume that I had back then. To think that 5 years from now,
this exceeds what I could have ever hoped for. The strides that I think have been made, at least in the medical community. I mean, 5 years ago, I think most physicians had never heard of POTS, and I think now they've all heard of it. They don't think of it maybe in the way that I would hope, but they still have heard of it.
It's more common knowledge now, yeah.
Not just considered a psychiatric condition. And,
yeah, they like to group that in there. It's a mental illness with all of the EDS, POTS, mast cell. It's all made up, and Again, fighting to prove it is just exhausting. Yeah,
I know, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. But speaking of how the American medical system embraces chronic pain patients and multisystem and EDS patients, I'd love to ask you, what do you believe to be the biggest pain point in the system for a person with, or is suspected with, or is trying to get diagnosed with a multisystem disease like EDS? Where do you think those exist?
Well, I think, along the lines of what we've been talking about, but even more so, just the lack of recognition and understanding. But literally almost everything, if not every comorbidity of EDS, is on the fringes of medicine, meaning, take, for example, craniocervical instability in EDS. If you go to the average neurosurgeon with your MRI, they're going to tell you it's normal and you don't have that. And so, but you have to go get your scan in front of a super specialist like Dr. Bolognese or Dr. Henderson. and there's only a few of them around.
And so it's a way that you perform certain studies that can prove these things that they're not potentially doing in certain mainstream Western medicine, that they're getting these tools to have us stand up in MRI so we're not laying down so that positioning can be correct.
Just the multiple angle analysis, that, because this is like a complex space.
Right.
And it would be in the traditional neurosurgeons, they look at one
Plane,
view, and that would be the same as looking at a flounder from one angle. You can get a completely misleading view.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of a simplistic, explanation. But yeah, I mean, Dr. Bolognese, for example, has been working with patients with this for probably longer than I probably even realized, but at least 15 years, I think.
Wow.
And just regular neurosurgeons. Like, we don't have anybody here in Colorado that I know of neurosurgery wise who would tell any of my patients who've had successful surgery for craniocervical instability that they had anything wrong at all.
That's a huge barrier. Yeah.
So, and that's just one of the many examples. I mean, you can just go off the list. I mean, POTS would be the best well-known probably, and it's still hard to get good care for POTS. I think it's probably the easiest. Like, most cardiologists are at least pretty able to run people through trials of reasonable medications, but to have the more advanced understanding that what's at the root of the POTS, what's causing it is not there. It's just, you have POTS, take some salt and exercise.
Not
but
relating to
these other things, median art, there's all these, and there keeps bubbling up more, these unusual compressive syndromes like Eagle syndrome and May-Thurner syndrome and MALS and all these things is just like blows your mind. And some people have all of them, and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so patients have to educate themselves to what is an insanely high level to get the care they need and deserve. Although I have to say, I don't know, it's like some gene walks with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome where there's so many of them able to do that. We're
born
awesome.
Advocates. I think we've
always.
always.
I don't know. People say it's not encoded with the EDS gene, but I don't know.
I think we've
seems like it is.
Yeah, I think that we've had to go about life doing things in a different way that works for us so much that it's just like it becomes a part of who we are.
Above and beyond to having to work so much harder than everybody else to be at the same place.
Absolutely. And doing it in a way that works for you, that doesn't work for the majority of people, but understanding hey, my whole life I've had to do things different than everybody else. And I'm going to, trust that and continue to trust myself. Eventually that trust builds up within yourself, because unfortunately we've been told by doctors and people, or not doctors, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, I shouldn't generalize, I apologize. I have PTSD, honestly, from going through medical systems and being completely told it's in my head and just discounted and ignored and feeling like I have to prove it. So I eventually learned to just really trust myself and trust my voice and try to articulate it in the best way possible to open up that communication, to have that empathy type of ear from my doctors, because it just gets so exhausting when you don't even have that. So I think it becomes a part of who we are, whether you kind of are aware of it or not, for sure.
And you have to have those characteristics you described, I think, to eventually get the care. And I think everybody, I don't know, I think every one of my patients to at least some degree has medical PTSD.
I absolutely, it's a real thing.
Without saying.
Yeah.
But one other characteristic I think people have to work hard to achieve is not to waste their energy on the doctors who discount them, to learn to just walk. I mean, I have patients that I just walk out. I'm like, good, that's what you should do. Just walk out.
You have to know when to choose or pick your battles. And especially with EDS, you're right.
They can tell who's going to listen to them and who's going to write pretty quick, I think.
Yeah.
And just it's hard, I'm sure, to not waste your energy focusing on and being angry at those people.
Especially with limited energy supply.
Right,
in the-
yeah.
Yeah,
be
Yeah,
very
that's
deliberate about
that's
how
what's
you use your
exhausting
energy.
is when you spend so much energy to just get to a doctor appointment, and you have so much hope that you're going to find some sort of relief or help or education or knowledge or tool to help you, and you
Yeah.
just walk into there and you're like, oh my God, this has been for nothing. It's hard not to walk away mad from that, for sure,
Yeah.
and not to just give up. I mean, there's been times where I'll just not even get health care because I'm so frustrated at trying to find that I just am like, I'd rather just not right now because I don't have the capacity to do it
Yeah.
anymore. So, and then, that ends up like hurting you, or, it's just, it's so complicated for us for sure. So yeah, EDS, man, it's
I know, that's what I call it, EDS, man. I,
just, oofta, it's that thing. Yeah. Yep.
just keeps giving. It just keeps giving.
it
It's like
doesn't end.
No, it does not. It does not stop taking. And I gotta say, like, I like EDS man a lot. As I've had a front row seat to this for a few months now, and for a while now.
Yeah.
And it definitely means living in chronic pain, which is something that I thought I understood back in the day. Like I thought, like, yeah, you wake up and you hurt every day, and you warm up, and it kind of moves away, and some days are better than others. And I was super fucking wrong. I'll absolutely be honest about that. And when I was trying on a particularly bad pain day, I was trying to like get inside my head or Jay's head a little bit and understand like what's actually going on, because I thought I understood pain. I was a hockey player. I ride skateboarders. I fall and break a lot of bones regularly. But then I ran across this thing from Dr. Forrest Tennant that like just absolutely racked my brain. He asserted, and I believe him, that the pain felt by Ehlers-Danlos patients is in the top 4 or 3 highest pain thresholds that can be known to a person. He went on to say that we usually, like as Americans, we associate extreme pain with cancer patients. My dad is dying of cancer right now, and like I could say I see pain on that, but not the same kind of pain that I see on Jay all too regularly. And Dr. Forrest says that or Dr. Tennant says that he's never known a cancer patient in as much pain as someone with EDS. I'm quickly finding that a lot of EDS care is monopolized just by managing symptoms, mainly pain. Do you share that like that's my conclusion after not nearly as long in this or as deeply in this as you are, but is that like the outlook for most EDS patients?
I mean, I think it's really variable. I have patients where some of the other symptoms could be even worse than their pain, but pain definitely, rises up there for sure. And it's also just another complicated feature of EDS where the pain, as you were saying, what's causing the pain, Vince, is complex, like many potential causes, and some of which are related to, just joint laxity, chronic subluxations, dislocations, and the pain resulting therein. There can be neuropathic pain. There can be inflammatory pain, et cetera. And you really there can be pain from craniostructural issues, craniocervical instability, these compressive issues like median arcuate ligament syndrome, and on it goes,
And then you get them all together. And that's what I think is just.
And what tends to happen is you treat one pain rises to the top, it seems like. And that one takes priority. And then, like, say somebody with MALS, median arcuate ligament syndrome, they have this terribly severe refractory abdominal pain, and they get the surgery for that, and that pain is better. Now they've got some other pain. It's like peeling away the layers of the onion, but there is hope, because I have seen people go from very sick to really pretty darn well by not giving up and plugging away and just keep plugging away at the different problems.
Consistent building of muscle around the weak joints is what I found to be the single most important thing for me.
Yep.
Between cannabis, physical therapy, and working out and building that muscle, and eating a whole foods diet,
Yep.
cutting out them GMOs, the processed foods. And those 3 main things have, I don't know if you know too much about my story, but I lost over 100 pounds, worked myself out of, a wheelchair. I was in a wheelchair, full bracing, on over 20 pharmaceuticals a day, brought that all down, with cannabis fitness and nutrition. And so I started teaching and sharing my story, advocating for cannabis plant medicine in Minnesota in 2014. That's where I'm from. I'm just working to educate people and change those laws so that everyone had safe access to cannabis. And so that it's become a passion project for me, and to represent the community and help break that stigma that people really have about cannabis, because it's why I could build that muscle and go to the gym every day and fight that pain consistently and build that consistent muscle. I couldn't do that on such high dose narcotics. And when I didn't have cannabis in my life, I was sedentary, and it was just a completely different lifestyle. So I completely understand when you say people can come, from very low places with this illness and disease. And I love being an example of that and showing people that, and just trying to bring in, as much education and support as we can for people, so they don't lose hope with it, because it's such an easy disease to really lose hope and just walk away. And doctors, some people prescribe you a wheelchair and all these medicines that you need more medicines and more, and you just this is my life now, and you don't think almost otherwise, because you often you think that that's just that's your life now.
And I also do think that exercise and diet, a non-processed anti-inflammatory diet, are the two most important things. I'm also a huge advocate of cannabis.
Yay.
But I would be sitting there with a patient who's like, pot changed my life.
Yeah.
And I would be like, yeah, tell me about it. And they're talking about like flower and sativa and cannabis. Indica. I'm like, what's sativa? What's flower? But now I have a long document I've written.
Hey,
completely naive for everything I've learned from my patients with mast cell activation on cannabis. So
thank you for being a voice and just breaking that stigma. And it is so important for us to have doctors who really truly understand how beneficial it is for us, and to be on our side for that, because we can get a scarlet letter in our medical file and just treated sometimes so horribly because of that.
People who are using opiates, as your case showed, not opiates, cannabis, can have a good chance of getting down on their dose of opiates, not up.
What they're also finding, like you said, is that the ability to access cannabis keeps the tolerance down on the pills and how many you're taking, so people aren't getting...
It reduces opiate use.
Absolutely.
There's
so
no
the combination, the combination of both, how that can't be so bad for, any one person that in comparison to being on such high dose narcotics and no cannabis. I feel like that's not those things don't equate, and we should have that,
I think you have to trust patients too, to say,
thank you.
Okay, if you're using cannabis with us and you feel like your level's going up, you feel sleepy, you feel like, you have a family member there, you ask them, look at their respiratory stuff,
Yeah.
Patients are actually able to do those things.
We want to have a quality of life. We don't want to be doped up, believe it or not. The majority of us, we just want to have a quality of life. And if people could just trust that we're not out there drug seeking or trying to, seek excessive amounts of that, and it would be, I think it would make it a lot easier to live in our shoes, so I appreciate that again, that understanding of it. That's awesome to have more doctors on our side.
That's the main reason I wrote this handout that I wrote, was all the nuances about using cannabis in patients with mast cell activation. Though just one example is that if you're using some kind of extracted product and it's extracted using butane or alcohol, the residue of that will activate mast cells. So I always before I consider that a patient gave a fair trial to cannabis, I'm like, well, have you tried
you go through those options
of flour, a couple different brands, make sure it's not contaminated with mold. Have you tried edibles without, dyes and other chemicals that you might react to? Have you tried a few different things? But I do have patients for sure who have given it the college try and it does not help them. But I just have too many people like you where it's a game changer for them. I actually saw one today who's out of state and in a state where cannabis is supposed to be legalized med and rec in a year, but not right now. I'm like, you're in Colorado. You may as well swing by and read my handout and grab a few things and see if there's a signal of benefit for you. Because if there is, then, you can make some decisions about, should I wait till 2023 or, move to a state where it's legal. I mean, because for some people it's dramatic.
Yeah.
A question then.
Yeah.
The responsible next choice would be to facilitate this conversation into the medical community and help normalize plant medicine and cannabis. And I love talking to doctors like you who have listened to their patients, have heard their patients' experiences, actually cared enough about their patients to believe them and to learn from them and say, okay, I need to go learn more about this. What is a sativa? What is an indica? I need to educate myself. Unfortunately, I really truly believe that you are a rarity in the medical field, and most medical professionals prefer to think that they already have the knowledge and they want to educate us, the patient, rather than us the other way around. So how do we move the forward? How do cannabis patients or people who are finding relief from cannabis or plant medicine help to push the conversation forward, do you think? Or can we? Does it have to be through conferences, workshops?
My husband is an oncologist. He's always never been pro cannabis. And I try to you're in oncology. You should definitely be talking to people about. I think he's kind of changed a little bit about that. I don't really know. I just see clear benefits in my population. I think, and you can correct me, Janessa, there's probably other mechanisms more, I don't know, but I see it as helping because it's mast cell inhibitory effects. At least I guess I embrace the known mechanism by which that could occur.
You have like a endocannabinoid deficiency is how I often hear it described, is that people, or what they're finding is that people have an endocannabinoid deficiency. And so cannabis, when you replenish your body with however cannabis you do, you're replenishing your endocannabinoid system, which in turn brings your body back to homeostasis. And so whole plant medicine, from my understanding, is the best at this, and why so many people with cancer, when they take what's called FECO, fully extracted cannabis oil, or often called RSO, that's what initially got me into learning about cannabis. I heard that it was helping people in that respect who had cancer, and I thought, well, fuck, if people with cancer are getting help from it, there's something wrong with my body. It's not cancer, but I'm willing to throw this at the door and see if I have any sort of relief, because they're getting relief. And so what they're finding is that why so many people with so many different illnesses, whether that be cancer, EDS, autoimmune disease like lupus, whatever it is, people are often feeling so much better just because of this replenishment of your endocannabinoid system is my understanding, and how I've been able to kind of look at it and understand it in a whole too with other communities.
So when you went to try it, what did you try first and what happened?
So when I was younger, I smoked weed when I was in high school. It's funny how you explained that story that you had just said, how they stopped smoking weed for somebody. My ex-husband really did the same thing to me. I met him when I was 18. He was not a fan of cannabis, told me to quit. I did, stop smoking weed. I got pregnant with my daughter, had her. After I had her, I was in pain my whole entire life, right? And was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And then when I got pregnant and I had her, your body laxes out so much when you're pregnant, right? And most women's bodies they get tighter. But all of a sudden, I would walk and my patellas would slip. I was noticing drastic changes in my body. And I was like, listen, I'm in so much pain, I gotta smoke or whatever. So that's when I started smoking cannabis again. And I just remembered I felt better, it helped me feel better or whatever. And so that's what initially it kind of got me back into it. And then I started hearing, like I said earlier, about people consuming RSO, fully extracted cannabis oil, and I started consuming that. And that's when it really helped. I started losing weight, and it felt like it was healing me from the inside. It wasn't just pain. When I smoke cannabis and do dabs, that really affects my pain levels, and I can, it helps with a lot of those issues immediate, much more quickly. But when I'm taking the oils, I feel like my body is healing. I feel just better. I'm drastically over a long period of time. So, I was taking upwards towards 2,000 milligrams a day at one point, slowly getting to that point and then getting my body used to that. So I wasn't, out of it or anything, but
it's a trial.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, ditch it and
right. Yeah. What's it going to harm?
Can you drop what you believe to be the single most important tool or piece of knowledge you have for all of the zebras listening and the chronic pain patients And
Yeah.
like, what is the
Well, I
one
think
thing?
we already said that. I think it's to have hope, to not give up,
Mindset.
to trust in yourself,
Yeah.
to not try not to try not to waste your energy on any provider who, treats you in a way most of us wouldn't want to be treated. Try not to waste your energy on that, as hard as it is to say. Just move on to the next person. And even as I said, some of my patients who just get up and walk out, like, like that speaks loudly to that doctor. Wow, well, maybe they'll say even worse things about you, but who cares? Maybe they'll actually stop and say, wow,
How did I cause, or right?
yeah,
How was
if
I a part of
had
that
a patient
situation?
do that to me, I would feel terrible. I would just be like, what did I say?
Right.
So, but just plug away at one thing at a time. Focus on one thing. Take it one step at a time. Say, whatever seems to be the worst. If it's your POTS, if it's your mast cell, if it's your pain, if it's, work on that. But the big two, like, even above cannabis, because that doesn't work. What works for everybody is exercise. You have to exercise if you have EDS. You have to figure out, and everybody's different. So you have to figure out your exercise regimen with or without, a physiotherapist or therapist or trainer. And Kevin Muldowney is a PT who specializes in EDS and has a book and has videos. And I had one of my patients who was 12 and lived in Wyoming and didn't have access to really, and this was 5 years ago, didn't have access to any EDS aware therapist. She made up her own program and thrived.
Having a good balance and, staying consistent and believing in yourself. Like you said initially, mindset is such an important tool or part of having and battling a chronic disease, EDS, especially.
And don't listen to those doctors who tell you to quit going on Google. I mean, it has been the patient communities in dysautonomia and mast cell and EDS who have just taken all of this to a whole new level. And even long COVID, it was the first patient group, what was it called? Body Politic, I think, because I have a patient who was one of the first members of that group.
Okay.
And I was telling my symptoms, and somebody on there said, well, my son has POTS, and that sounds a lot like POTS. Check your heart rate laying and standing. And they would check it, and they'd be like, yeah, mine goes really soars up there. Well, try some salt and try this. And, and then same thing with the mast cell. And they were the ones who figured out that a lot of people with long COVID were getting mast cell and POTS. And so,
that was going to be a question before that we were going to ask, just how long-term COVID is so similar to EDS, mast cell, and POTS, and how that's going to really have an effect.
I think it's just another trigger that can trigger off these diseases that I think of it. Have you guys seen those things, like those penny things they have like in Italy or in various tours, and you put a penny and it just rolls down in?
Yep.
It's like people enter that drain through autoimmunity. Some enter it through mast cells, some enter it through EDS. And I don't know, everybody's path is a little bit different, but like they just all go down together. And
COVID just seems to bring that those triggering those similar things.
So different triggers can kick that off for people.
Yeah.
And COVID is just one of them.
Yeah, I'm so terrified to get COVID. I haven't got it. I've got my shots. I got my booster.
Oh, good for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we take precautions and stuff, and especially learning more about how those things just come with long-term COVID. It's just like terrifying when that's just our everyday already.
We already have.
Yeah. And that could just be, think about those things being exacerbated, and it's just like, oh my God, I'm paralyzed in fear. Like it's hard not to be, for sure. But
hopefully long COVID, just because of all the money being poured in, the tension will only improve things.
That's kind of what we're hoping in the community, I think, is that like maybe now we'll get a little bit more attention on these things that haven't had this attention, but now just so similarly look like what we have.
Less patient blaming by doctors, because I think a lot of people have really, really talked about that problem.
I love that. Yeah.
That you all have seen for years. It just, doctors who've gotten long COVID are like,
now they're experiencing it.
I was just said I have anxiety. I'm like, I don't have anxiety,
Seeing is believing.
Coming out
or
and just
having it.
Taking a stand against what that felt like to them. Like,
Yeah. Now that they actually have it, it's a little different, I guess, for them, and now it's piquing their interest. I suppose.
Yeah.
When it affects you personally, it's a different story.
And it certainly sucks that they had to be in your shoes to be able to empathize.
Right.
Like
That's difficult.
But that is the place that we're at, and if it helps, let's hope it helps.
I'll jump on that train.
Yeah, and also the patients who get blamed for researching, trying to figure out what's wrong with them. It's like,
right.
I just want to say to those, like, if your daughter was sick and you didn't get an answer at the first doctor, would you just give up and say, thank you so much, we'll just go live in our basement?
Right.
Like, no.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, and I appreciate you having that perspective for us patients and understanding, like, we're not crazy. We're not just like putting names and labels of things because we want these labels. I don't like to be labeled. We're just trying to find answers because it's as confusing and painful, and it's beyond to live with this. Like, I'm sure it's annoying for you guys to hear about it, but we're living with this every single day. So yes, of course, we're spending that. We want to be able to spend the time on that and have the support, and not to be judged for our not listened to because we do that, So I appreciate you continuing to encourage that in the patient community, because I think we need to hear that coming from a doctor, and knowing that that's a necessary thing.
Yeah, that's
Thank
just
you.
a pet peeve of mine when I just hear that all the time. Quit medscaping and.
Yeah, well, no, that's awesome.
It has been an absolute delight to talk to you.
Thank
an absolutely
you so
delightful
much.
Doctor. Especially, so many months of talking to not delightful doctors.
Yeah.
So much time. This has been an absolute treat.
Yes.
Dr. Jill Schofield is the founder and director of the Center for Multisystem Diseases in Colorado. You can Google her. She comes up on so many different pages immediately. But if you want immediate resources in our show notes, we have linked the documents that she talked about. We've linked a couple of her research papers, her website. It should be as easy as possible for you to be able to go click on over and hear a little bit more from the doctor if you want to. Dr. Jill Schofield, it was so wonderful having you on Bluntly Told this week.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Congrats, Janessa, on your improved health. Good
Thank
for
you. I appreciate it. Definitely out there just trying to make every day better,
Yep.
Yeah.
EDS, man. We'll end on that.
All right, that was Dr. Jill Schofield.
That was such a great interview.
That was. It was so cool to get to sit down and really that interview went on for a lot longer than y'all saw, and it was hard to it was such a great conversation. It was hard to figure out what to show you and what to say for the clips.
What to cut.
Yeah. But we definitely are saving
great.
clips, so make sure that you are following along everywhere at Bluntly Told, YouTube, Instagram, Anchor. We'll put up probably some bonus episodes here and there with little guest montages. But what was it like getting to talk to Dr. Schofield one-on-one like that?
Yeah, it was awesome. So she's been somebody that I have wanted. My cat's knocking stuff down. Excuse us. So she's been somebody I wanted to talk about because her approach to having an understanding about EDS, mast cell, and POTS, or dysautonomia. Thank you. I don't even.
Yeah, it's dysautonomia. Dr. Schofield taught me how to say that. We'll make a clip of that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyways, so our postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome, POTS, a lot of people call it, but just your body has a hard time regulating your heart rate and blood pressure, and so sometimes you'll pass out, and different body regulation issues is really what that means. So that, and then mast cell, I'm sure you guys learned all about that, but her approach to treating and understanding all of those and how they work together always really intrigued me, and I've always really wanted to see her as a patient, and so I was just really ecstatic and excited to be able to ask her a few questions on the show, and it was such an honor. It was a lot of fun. So yeah. Great way to start off the show and have the validation about cannabis too. And having her, when we reached out to her, I was like, please support cannabis. And I had a feeling that she did, and she, it was so exciting when she leaped onto that, and enjoyed. It was definitely hearing her point of view on that. I definitely am excited to, as times continue. Hopefully more doctors will have her point of view and perspective and stuff. I think that's really the only way things are also going to change federally. We have to get the doctors on board, but that pharmaceutical industry really is just fucking kicking our ass.
Yeah, absolutely, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
I
it was
gotta
great
believe-
having Dr. Schofield on, and I had the pleasure of getting to do the pre-interview with her,
Yeah.
and so I knew some of her answers in advance too, which was really delightful. But knowing the hopes that you had about where it would go, and knowing that it would eventually go there, it was awesome.
it was fun.
So again, there's a lot more to that interview. Everybody, make sure that you are following us on
Yeah.
Instagram at Bluntly Told.
clipping all the clips.
We'll probably leak some through at Fit
Yeah.
Cannabis Couple there over too. YouTube is Bluntly Told. Everywhere that you listen to podcasts, if you're listening to this right now, make sure that you open that app up, and you subscribe,
follow,
you
yeah,
review, you
subscribe,
follow.
review.
Yes, if
Do
it's
those
YouTube,
things. Support
it's
us, please,
smash the
y'all.
subscribe
We
button is what we're
appreciate it.
supposed to say.
Right, we'll jump on that train. Yeah.
To everybody on Facebook who's watching with us, thank you so much for
Yeah.
tuning in. Thanks for your comments. Canna Bliss, thank you so much for all the
Yeah,
shares and all
thanks
the
for
love.
hanging
We really
out. Yeah.
appreciate seeing you
You
in
guys,
there.
it's pretty cool.
It's really, really, really
awesome.
cool to finally see this.
Yeah.
This season is really great. The way that we're doing it is 9-episode seasons. So join us every week for the next 9 weeks. We have some very cool guests coming through and hanging out with us, including Runner's High author Josiah Hesse, a brand new book that's out that if you have not picked up, it's about cannabis and athletics.
Hey, definitely go check that out, you guys.
100%.
Very cool.
Janessa is featured in the book as well. So
I might
if
have a little part in it.
if you need more reasons to go buy that
I mean,
book, go buy that
if you
book.
haven't heard my story enough here yet, it
Spend
does actually
money.
go a little bit more in depth, but there's a lot of other people's perspectives and point of views, not just mine, who really back this up. It's not just me who's been saying this. There's been a lot of people who've been a part of this community, and so it's really cool to get everyone's kind of perspective on it and stuff. So he put it together really nicely, and I'm excited to interview him. Josiah's be great. Yep.
It's a great
Check
book.
out
Yeah,
that.
I just finished reading it again for the second time the other day, and I walked through it again. So definitely go read it.
Definitely
We
check
have
it
the Chillionaires coach Sabo Shen coming up.
Hey,
We
Sabo.
have Forbes magazine most powerful man in most powerful person in marijuana, Ricardo Baca, coming on to talk
Hey.
about it. We have athletes, we have entrepreneurs, we have activists, we have a little bit of everybody. We'll be talking about who's coming up. Follow us on Facebook. That's where we're going to announce who our guests are. Our
Yes.
Facebook and Instagram. That's like the
Facebook and
first chance for you
Instagram,
to really
Bluntly
get to
Told
see
pages.
them. Yeah, that's
Please,
where they are.
just
yeah.
follow us there.
On Instagram, I'm at Fit Cannabis Boy. On TikTok, I'm at Fit Cannaboy. Definitely follow me there. Janessa, you get at her.
Yeah, Fit Cannabis Girl, and then Jaylee Wellness as well. As Bluntly Told continues, I'll be posting on that platform a little bit more. But check out Fit Cannabis Girl and Fit Canna Girl on TikTok. And I think that about wraps it up.
Bluntly Told is hosted by Janessa Lee and Vince Chandler. The Fit Cannabis Couple is also responsible for the creation and direction of this show. All of our digital distribution is handled by the good folks at Thunderstorm Strategies. Do not forget to like, follow, and subscribe to this show on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere that you can possibly think of, and tell a friend about it.